Hi friends, welcome to Drop Into Dr. Awesome. I am Dr. Awesome, and we're going to talk a little bit about color grading. So what is color grading? Well, color grading is just how we ensure that all of our footage looks like it was meant to be together. And this is different than color correction, but they do start in the same place, and that place is white balance. Now, white balance is just how your camera defines color, and it does that based off how it defines white. If you don't know how to white balance your camera, I strongly suggest you figure out if you're using one of the Comm Studies cameras here at Longwood. I'll put some links below that'll show you how to do that, okay? But basically, this is, like I said, this is how your camera defines color. So, you know, you want to always make sure and white balance the camera appropriately for where you're at. Right now, I'm white balanced correctly, but if I were white balanced with, say, more yellow, it looks like this, which is not terrible or unusable, but still kind of funky. What if I were white balanced with more blue? Now we're getting kind of weird, right? You can start to see how important this actually becomes to really make sure that you're doing this before you go in, because there's no way to correct for this. Like, it's just, it's not happening, right? And for kicks and giggles here, let's look at what happens if I white balance for green. Look at how weird that is. Look, I'm like all purple and stuff. Like, again, you just can't, you can't correct for this. So always make sure you white balance your camera, and that will make both color correction and color grading much, much easier. All right, that little spiel being said, let's go ahead and jump onto the computer, and we'll talk a little bit more about how you actually go through the process of color grading in Premiere Pro. All right, so here we are in Adobe Premiere Pro, and we're going to assume for the purpose of this video that I've already actually gone through and done my actual color correction, which is meaning that I've gone through and selected every individual clip and made sure that it was as close to what I was looking at in the camera as possible, and we're going to now move on to our color grade. Now remember, the color grade, like I said, is sort of what makes all of these clips look like they belong together. And it also really is one of the tools that we utilize to make video our own. Like, everyone color grades a little differently. I like very high contrast, very high saturation video. Not everyone does, but it's really my thing. And so what I'm going to show you is kind of the process that I go through generally, and in doing that, what I'm going to show you is sort of where you can figure out what it is that you like and start to figure out your own look. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to this little new item button right here. I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to select adjustment layer. This information is all fine. I'll go ahead and hit OK, and I'm going to drag it out on my timeline above all of my other clips and just drag it out so that it is the length of the clips that I want to apply this to. And the reason I'm doing this is because it allows me to apply the same effects to a series of clips rather than have to actually go through and individually edit each one. And it also, doing it this way, doesn't mess with my color correction that I did. This just lays over the top of that as a secondary feature. And so then I'm going to select that adjustment layer, and I'm going to come up here to color, and that will open the Lumetri color window over here. Now, it may open in basic correction, it may open in creative or curves or color wheel or any of the other options here, but really 90% of the time what I do is just in this basic correction window. So I'm looking at this footage, and I can see that it's all a little overexposed, which won't always be the case, but in this case it is. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take that exposure down a little bit, and I'm going to come over here to exposure, and I'm going to take it down by -0.3, which is not a lot. It's just a little. We're just taking it down by a hair to sort of mellow it out a little bit. And then, like I said, I like high contrast. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my contrast, and I'm going to up that by 25. But then, and you can kind of already start to see, if I come over here and I mute this, you can kind of already start to see a little bit of a difference, right? But I want it to be even more contrasty. I want it to have a lot of punch to it. So what I'm going to do in addition to just adjusting the contrast itself, I'm going to take my shadows, and I'm going to take them down. I'm going to deepen my shadows. I'm going to take them down by -25, and then I'm going to come down here to my blacks, and to really sort of make that pop, I'm going to take them down by -20 as well. And then what we're going to do is, if you come over here and look at this, you can really see sort of a difference starting to happen here. And it's in it, like I said, it applies it to all of the clips. that we've got on our timeline here. And one last thing I'm going to do here that I do almost every time I apply a color grade to something is I'm going to up my saturation. Now, you have to be careful with skin tones because you can start to make people look weird, but with B-roll like this, it's a really easy way to give some vibrance and life to your footage. So I'm going to come over here to my saturation, and I'm taking it from 100 to 130%. And now what we've got is this really nice, high contrast, high pop, sort of just vibrant, little, very alive video. And that's all color grade really is. It's just figuring out what you like and applying it to your work to give it a sort of personal and professional feel. You should really never take footage just directly out of the camera and turn it in. That's really professionally sort of unacceptable. Color grading really is one of those things that shows that you're willing to put the time and effort into a piece to really unify it and make it your own. And with some very simple stuff, like what I just did here, you're able to take some very mundane footage and create some pretty interesting sequences like this. So, like everything that I talk about as part of this, series, the only way to get better at this is to practice. So go out, shoot some footage, put it on a timeline, open up that color window, really start figuring out what you like and what you don't like, what works for you, what doesn't. Figure out what really makes you feel like you've put together a creative and professional product. And then, do it again. All right. Cool. Keep shooting, friends.